Imagine this. You're in a relationship with someone who seems fragile, misunderstood, and deeply in need of your protection. She tells you things no one else knows. She opens her soul. She cries in your arms. And you feel chosen, special, trusted. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, your confidence starts to fade. Your reality feels slippery, and the person you were before begins to disappear. You don't realize it yet, but you're being rewired, turned into something she can control. This is the world of the covert female narcissist, and what makes her most dangerous is not what she shows you, but what she hides. Today, we're exposing her most destructive manipulation tactics, so you can see them before they consume you. Number 1. Manufactured vulnerability as a weapon. The covert female narcissist has a disarming trick that works almost every time. She makes you believe she's the one who needs saving. From the very start, before trust has had any chance to grow naturally, she'll confide in you with stories of heartbreak, betrayal, or deep-seated fears. She might talk about an ex who destroyed her, a childhood full of neglect, or a recent crisis that's left her barely hanging on. On the surface, it looks like an act of raw, courageous openness. In reality, it's a calculated maneuver. By framing herself as wounded, she taps into your protective instincts. You feel an unspoken responsibility to be her anchor, her safe place, the one person who truly understands her. That bond feels special, even sacred, as if fate put you in her life to help her heal. This is where the trap closes. What feels like intimacy is actually conditioning. The stories she tells aren't necessarily false, but they're curated for maximum emotional impact, chosen to make you feel irreplaceable. The danger is subtle. You begin to measure your worth in how much you can ease her pain. Walking away doesn't just feel like ending a relationship. It feels like abandoning someone in need. And that's the hook. Because in her world, that vulnerability isn't a doorway to mutual trust. It's emotional bait. Sooner or later, the unspoken debt you've been carrying will be called in, not in the form of love or appreciation, but in the form of compliance. Number 2. Emotional hostage-taking. Once she has you emotionally invested, the covert female narcissist changes the rules of the game. Disagreements are no longer just disagreements. They're emotional standoffs where you're set up to lose. Every time you try to set a boundary, express a need, or even offer constructive feedback, the atmosphere shifts instantly. She might burst into tears, withdraw into icy silence for days, or erupt in sudden, disproportionate anger. These reactions aren't random outbursts. They're deliberate tools designed to keep you off balance. She knows the culture you've been raised in. Society teaches men, and many women, that a man's role is to protect a woman's emotional comfort, sometimes at the expense of his own well-being. She uses that conditioning against you. If you make her cry, you feel like the villain. If she goes silent, you scramble to fix things. If she lashes out, you back down to avoid escalating the tension. It's a cycle where you're constantly managing her emotions, not because you're abusive or careless, but because you've been trained to believe that upsetting her is the ultimate wrongdoing. Over time, this dynamic erases your own needs from the equation. You stop bringing up issues because you know the price you'll pay. Your emotional bandwidth gets consumed by anticipating her reactions and preventing her meltdowns. The relationship stops feeling like a partnership and starts feeling like stage management. You're always adjusting the script, the lighting, and the cues to make sure she stays center stage. And in this performance, her feelings are the plot, her comfort is the priority, and you've become a supporting character in your own life. Number 3. Gaslighting and reality distortion. Once she's shaped your emotions to her advantage, the covert female narcissist takes aim at something far more dangerous: your sense of reality itself. This is where gaslighting becomes her weapon of choice, a quiet, precise scalpel that cuts into your trust in your own mind. She'll deny things you know happened, sometimes with a calm certainty that makes you second-guess your own memory. You might recall an argument in vivid detail, but she'll look you straight in the eye and say, "That's not how it happened. You're remembering wrong." Or she'll reframe a situation so thoroughly that you start wondering if you're the unreasonable one. This isn't about telling a little white lie to save face. It's a deliberate campaign to make you doubt your own perception of events. The more you question yourself, the less you trust your instincts. And when your internal compass starts spinning, she steps in as the reliable one, the person who can clarify what's really true. You stop arguing not because you agree, but because you've started to believe she sees things more clearly than you do. Over time, this process turns your own mind into hostile territory. What used to be your safe space, your private, unquestioned understanding of reality, becomes unstable ground. You find yourself replaying conversations, checking texts, second-guessing decisions, and wondering if you're overreacting. The irony is that the more you depend on her version of events, the deeper her control runs. And by the time you notice how much power she's gained, you may already be living in a reality she wrote, one where her truth is the only truth, and yours has been quietly erased. Number 4, the performance trap. With a covert female narcissist, your relationship becomes an endless audition. Her approval is dangled in front of you like a prize you can never quite win. You pour in time, energy, and care, thinking that if you just get it right, she'll finally relax and let you feel secure. But the goalposts keep moving. One day you're told you're not attentive enough, so you step up your game. The next day, you're too clingy and need to back off. No matter how closely you follow her cues, there's always something you're doing wrong. This isn't incompetence on your part, it's by design. She creates a state of chronic evaluation where you're always under review but never quite passing the test. The unpredictable nature of her approval is where the real hook lies. When you've been frozen out for days or criticized into self-doubt, that sudden burst of warmth, affection, or praise feels euphoric. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that keeps gamblers glued to slot machines. You never know when the jackpot will hit, so you keep pulling the lever. In reality, these moments of kindness aren't signs of progress or love. They're calculated resets to keep you invested. They give you just enough hope to erase the memory of the cold stretches. And over time, your focus shifts from building a healthy, mutual connection to simply earning the next hit of validation. That's the trap. You stop living for love and start performing for approval, not realizing that the performance is the point and she's the only one scoring it. Number 5, isolation in disguise. With a covert female narcissist, isolation doesn't come in the form of obvious control. She won't directly say, "Don't see your friends," or "Stay away from your family." That would be too easy to recognize and resist. Instead, she chips away at your social connections in ways that feel personal and situational rather than strategic. You might notice that every time you make plans, something happens, an argument flares up before you leave. She goes emotionally cold after you return, or she drops subtle comments like, "I guess I just don't matter as much as they do." At first, you may brush it off as coincidence or normal relationship friction. But over time, you start to notice a pattern. Your social life always comes at a cost. Maybe it's the exhausting effort of smoothing things over before you can go out, or the silent treatment that greets you when you come home. Slowly, without conscious decision, you begin declining invitations. It's not worth the drama. This is where the trap tightens. The less time you spend with others, the more your emotional world centers on her. She becomes your primary, sometimes your only, source of validation, comfort, and conversation. And once she's the only voice you're hearing regularly, she gains the power to frame reality without challenge. There's no friend to remind you of who you were before her, no family member to offer perspective, no outside influence to question her version of events. By the time you realize you've been cut off, It won't feel like she pushed you away from others. It will feel like you simply drifted. But that drift was the plan all along. If any of these patterns feel uncomfortably familiar, here's the truth. You're not weak for falling into them. You're human. These dynamics are engineered to bypass logic and tap straight into your instincts. They work because they exploit qualities you should be proud of: empathy, loyalty, and the desire to help someone you care about. That's why recognizing them isn't a sign of failure. It's the first step toward freedom. Awareness is your lifeline. The moment you can name these tactics, they lose much of their power. You stop reacting automatically, start setting boundaries, and begin seeing the difference between genuine love and strategic control. That's where we come in. On Stoic 95, we dissect the psychological traps most people never see coming, breaking them down into clear, practical insights you can use to protect yourself. We're not here to scare you. We're here to hand you the map out. If you value your independence, your mental clarity, and your right to live on your own terms, don't wait until the damage is done. Subscribe now, because the earlier you spot manipulation, the faster you can take back control, and the more life you'll have left to live free from it.